On the agenda, we've got Mr. Jason Dietz, and he is going to be giving us a presentation on the Federal Highway Pavement Preservation Strategic Plan and Training. So, Jason.
And the crowd goes wild. Woo! Oh, that got some interest. That's good. Well, this Fed coming up here to talk, and for those that don't know me, Jason Dietz with the Federal Highway Resource Center. Been with the Resource Center based out of Denver, Colorado for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I worked around the country in a lot of different division offices, our headquarters office, our federal lands offices out in Virginia. And then I graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno with an undergraduate and a graduate degree in paving materials. Prior to that, I worked for a consultant for 5 years where I got a lot of driving the dyno test, deflection, as well as a profilograph on the road. So I had some years of experience in this. And then when going to school in Nevada, we did a lot of chip seals, and I worked for the research laboratory under John Epps, where we did a lot of these preservation treatments for the state of Nevada. And it showed really promise for us, and we saved a lot of money. So that kind of takes me back to the beginning, and now I'm here talking about Federal Highway Strategic Plan, because for most, you know, we can talk about training, we can talk about things to move forward, we can talk about making preservation better equipments and things like that, but again, it comes back to give us the money, right? Give us the money. And, you know, and that's part of it too, but agencies also have to have a strategic plan on how that money is going to be used for preservation. And now with our transportation asset management plans that agencies have to provide through Congress, through the Federal Highway, requiring us to do that kind of process, we're getting a little bit more reaction from agencies putting away money aside for maintenance roadways. And that's good. There's common goals they have to set for preservation and things like that. So let's make it better. It's making it more advancements, and I'm glad to see that happening. So with that said, I'm here today to talk about our strategic plan. And Rufus, I'm also going to talk about training, because that was one of the things that was mentioned by this group of what trainings are out there. I'm going to talk a little bit about a task force that I was involved with back when in the Rocky Mountain group, when putting together a team to talk about training and what all that will engage in. But first, you know, we want to start with pavement preservation. You know, the definitions. We heard a little bit in a breakout session back here on research yesterday about what is the definition of preservation. Well, different people call it different things. And through Federal Highway over the years, we've had memos to talk about it. We had some guidances, some that superseded others. And we're currently in the process of developing a better one. But through Congress, too, we're also seeing efforts that are being made, and it was mentioned a little bit by Tim Harwood yesterday, that maintenance is getting more into programs on the federal highway side for funding for agencies to use. But with that, there comes agreements, there comes definitions of what all that means. And here is just kind of a common definition what federal highway we call, in our interpretation of federal highway, for pavement preservation, is that work planned and performed to improve or sustain the condition of the transportation facility in a state of good repair. Okay? In addition, we also like to say it's also keeping our good roads good. Agencies know what they need to do for rehabilitation. They have a 5-year plan. They work with their STIP and develop those. But do they have plans for preservation treatment? Well, that's kind of like, maybe, maybe not. But that's something we need to get in the mindset of agencies to start developing. In addition, with Federal Highway, we have a strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, this was written in 2019, it talks about our plan on preservation. It will continue to raise the awareness of proven strategies such as performance-based, practical design, and the use of preservation techniques to cost-effectively extend that service life of the transportation assets that could further improve investment decision-making. A lot of words, but again, I really wanted to state that there is now something in our strategic plan that has something about preservation. Back 7, 8 years ago, we never had that, but now that's incorporated, so that's a good thing, and we're moving these efforts forward. Furthermore, what is our role with federal highway when it comes to preservation? Over the years, we've done a lot in QCQA, we've done a lot of other things, but in preservation, we haven't done too much. So we have to kind of step back and say, okay, what is our role? Because the role 40 years ago is different now than it was back then. Now we're more with new governments, new people coming in. The government is setting back on policies and things that make it agencies do and allowing them to do what they need to do to function with their department. So with that said, in our role is to provide policy and leadership. With policy, with our new requirements, it includes training, technology transfer, to make these effective applications of pavement preservation with the overall pavement management process. And again, now with pavement management, asset management, agencies are going to be developing more of these preservation treatments, and something to keep in mind, as well as to demonstrate the economics and the socio-environmental benefits with preservation. It's going to extend that life, right? So that's why we state that. And then conduct and sponsor research. There's always avenues of improvement. I'm going to be talking a little bit of the use of RAP here in a little bit. Other things that will make preservation more reliable in this century of new products and new intuitions and new equipments that are out there to make it better. Furthermore, it talks a little bit about Sharp 2 solutions, things that we did in preservation, as well as the Everyday Counts initiatives, and then things that we have been doing and that we're going to continue to do. So who are our stakeholders? Well, it starts off with our state highway agencies. In addition, along with that, it also incorporates the local agencies as well. As mentioned yesterday, they act upon a lot of our roadways around the country, and with our new authorization bills, we are spending a little bit more grant funds and et cetera for local agencies for doing things like that, as well as our Indian reservations. They need as much help as others, and we're making an effort to do that. For the industry, we have our American Concrete Pavement Associations, we have our Asphalt Institutes. We're all incorporating all these as a part of it. EMA, ISSA, ERA, PPRA, and others. And then lastly, academic organizations. We talked a little bit yesterday about the younger generation and getting on board, understanding preservation. Well, in my school, in my graduate school, we did have preservation as an elective that we could take along with some other things, recycling, et cetera. But there were things that we learned as undergraduates for preservation, and not to mention, I was in a state that was very proactive when it came to preservation. Furthermore, our focus, we wanted to step back, and we've had over the years, we had expert task forces that really pushed us in directions of, what documentations, what kind of things that we needed to go out there with to really advance technologies in certain areas, say in quality assurance, in pavement design, et cetera. And early on, we had an expert task force for preservation. Over the years, it changed. New leadership came on board. Now it's called a technical feedback group, where we're asking these group of people on their spare time to help us on how can we improve these things across the country. And with this feedback group, it creates that information, that interaction with agencies as well as industry to make these things happen. So we meet about once a year. I don't lead that effort. It's our headquarters office that leads that. And over the last few years with COVID and things like that, it's been kind of complicated, but we're hoping to move that forward here in the next few months and having a meeting to move that efforts forward. In addition, we need to look at opportunities. We need to expand the knowledge and experience. It continues. More people are retiring. Younger generations are coming on board. We need to educate them further. Also, we need to demonstrate more on the benefits. We all know where our failures are when it comes to these preservation treatments, and that's why in some agencies, they haven't done enough. So we need to demonstrate what those benefits are And we currently have a contract with ARA to look at a marketing and communication plan when it comes to that. And I was hoping that that document would be released by now, but it still isn't. But we hope to have that out real soon to provide that information. As John, you mentioned the other day, that would be nice, and we're working on it. We also want to encourage agencies to become more pavement preservation oriented. And we're seeing more and more agencies do it, but there can be still a lot more that can, as well as foster collaboration and cooperation with our agencies and our partners. That needs to happen as well. What are their needs? And we can help to make that happen. Strategic elements, well, like most, there has to be a mission, and that mission is to preserve our nation's highways, infrastructure, and keeping good roads good, as well as an objective to help those agencies strategically consider the implementation of the pavement preservation program. So what have we did with strategy? And well, this is strategy one, where to explore and disseminate pavement preservation fundamentals. Over the years, we have updated our checklist for inspectors, what to look out for on some of these preservation treatments. We're also in the process of wrapping up a benchmark study that we did around the country to come in with information on what agencies are doing and where they are in specific areas of training, working with contractors, contracting methods, using IDIQs, and et cetera, et cetera. We're trying to take that information to develop where we're going to go forward with our strategic plan. In addition, we also want to look at some of the benefits, and I mentioned that marketing communication plan, and then we want to look at whatever other gaps that we need to further expand into to make better for this use. And then lastly, one of the biggest hurdles was about a year or two ago, I heard from agencies is that where is all this information that Federal Highway is doing on preservation? And like most agencies, we had a process of going through to get this on our website, and it took a little longer than what I anticipated, but now our website is pretty much up to date on things that agencies can go to for further information. When it comes to peer exchanges of where we did for everyday counts, on what regions of the country, where states were experiencing good practices, were experiencing poor performances, a lot of that information is right in those peer reports if you just look at that website. So please take the time at the end. I got that site email address. Take a look at that. In addition, do we have to do more when it comes publishing more documentation and reference materials? I think we've seen a lot, but do we need to do more? And that's further what we're looking into. And then facilitate more education and training if that's needed. And again, that's really going to go back to that benchmark study on what agencies feel, what are the important needs they need to move forward in this program. Step number 2 is encourage effective pavement preservation programs. It may sound simple, but we have to deploy some pavement tools out there that maybe agencies need to step up and move to the next step. Provide construction inspection training. That's currently what we're working on. We're working on an NHI course for both local agencies as well as state agencies to take to learn about inspection. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Identify pavement preservation considerations during pavement design activities. We all know, for those that have been with the state agencies, how can we get our designers to do more when it comes to preservation? And I'll talk about that in a second. We also want to integrate performance management and asset management. That is really key, and we need to do more by maximizing the use of our management systems, what can be done for preservation, and then provide some techniques that are tools to identify the appropriate preservation techniques and et cetera. And then we want to leverage with industry and our stakeholders to promote construction and certification programs, as well as partnerships on project showcases. So in addition on these, we want to facilitate strategic pavement preservation research and implementation efforts. We want to take out there some of the agencies the best experiences and bring them out to others that may not have that opportunity. So we want to lead or support that critical research and develop fact sheets and research reports that can assist agencies to move forward. Then last but not least, we want to implement coordination preservation pavement program, execute communication and marketing plans, like I mentioned, engage stakeholders through FHWA partnerships, like the one that we're in today, workshops, and et cetera. At the end of each one of these tables, there is a pavement preservation webinar series of showing webinars that we've had this year. Please, if you're though at the end, if you could pass it down, I'd appreciate it. But I've been doing this for the last 3 years. And every year we have at least have about 15 or 18 of these webinars from different preservation as well as recycling programs. How many people are aware of them? All right, a little bit better hands than I've seen. But a lot of these webinars have been recorded. That information is available. If you have staff that wants to further information on it, all they got to do is look at this website. I want to thank PPRA for assistance, Chuck, as well as others with ISSA, EMA, ERA, for making this really happen. During our COVID days, you know, we couldn't travel, so we had to have a way to go out there and provide this training, and that's what we did. And now I go around the country asking folks about webinar training, and they say, tell Federal Highway, stop the webinar training. We've had enough. We got money. We can have you guys come in, and we can do that too. And we're getting more folks asking us to come into their office to give training, and we can do that. So feel free to reach out to me if that's the case. But like everything, strategic plans, you have to have some measurable outcomes. And this is what we had in our strategic plan when it came to preservation. We wanted to conduct our benchmark study. That was right there, and I talked about that. We also want to develop some matrices for that document for research programs. What are the things that need to be happening? Encourage effective pavement preservation programs, and then facilitate strategic pavement preservation, research, and et cetera. We got to keep our Turner Fairbanks people active, and we got a lot of research things that are going to be coming out. So additional things, share approved strategic plan. Again, this is a working document, something every so, and I'm meeting here in the next month with the rest of my headquarters folks in Turner Fairbanks to update it. But again, as we move forward, we look at our benchmark study, we make modifications of what needs to be done. Also access strategic plan, I've talked about that. Continue to carry on activities, implementation plan, and et cetera. Over the years, we've seen NCAD, we've seen Minroads do research, and that's great. I always kind of sat in the back seat waiting for Federal Highway to do something, because back 5-7 years ago, we had a lot of this information available for this pooled fund to go out there and do research demonstration projects, but unfortunately, at that time, we didn't have enough money to roll it out. But as being persistent as I am, I continue with a passion to push it, and finally this last year, I was able to get approval to move forward with it. And I'm very happy to say that through Joe Allring from Minnesota DOT with his assistance, they have decided to take the lead on this pool fund, and that pool fund is 1581. If you want to write that down for further information, go to that. It talks a little bit about more what it's about, and et cetera. But a little thing about this is really to unify the strategies and address the preservation implementation efforts for developing best construction practices. We have NCHRP reports that are going out there now. We're going to hear a little bit about our construction inspection, and we're also about specifications that are being done. That's all great, but we want to take those practices and combine them to help agencies have these projects in their own backyard. And there's nothing more than for an agency to have that experience one-on-one with these preservation projects to really go through of all the details of what makes it work and what makes it happen. In addition, the process of dealing with the contractor if they have issues and things to make it advance. If they need to tweak their specifications, if that's not going to work, they need to go through that to learn that process. In addition, we're also going to incorporate a long-term monitoring program, and this is going to be going through our Turner Fairbanks office. We're going to have this program called the InfoPave web portal, where agencies can get that information about how that road is performing over the years. State agencies are welcome to use their own equipments to go out there and monitor it. That's fine, but for those that don't have it, we're going to give them the opportunity to actually go out there and do it for them. So I just wanted to share that. Please take a chance to look at that, and I'm sure Joel and Jerry are here. If you have any questions, feel free, but we're in the process of really trying to market it and getting agencies to be a part of this, and we hope it can go forward. Any state interested? I know you're all gung-ho, it's early in the morning, but at least think about it. Bring it back to your state. Well, that's a little bit about our strategic plan. Hopefully you got a little bit of information on that. Now I just want to touch a little bit on some of the training efforts that are out there. And again, this was something I did back in 2018 for the Rocky Mountain. I had a group, about 7 or 8 people, that helped work with me on this, and just kind of want to share with you some of the things that came out of it. Well, first of all, we really looked at what do we need to do to accomplish this training. The first thing, train workforce in all aspects of pavement preservation. Who needs to be trained? What skills are needed? And who delivers that training? Is it something that needs to be done in-house or outside? In some agencies, it's better to have somebody from outside, maybe because they just don't have the staffing or the experience. But again, some agencies do have it, so having it internally, there's nothing wrong with that. And then, furthermore, are all agencies convinced that the training is needed and valued? There needs to be a champion, as well as there needs to be some incentives. Are we going to get better quality with these preservation treatments coming out of these trainings, and et cetera? And then lastly, determine the best format of delivery that needs to be done for your particular training. In addition, how do we accomplish these tasks? Well, we need to identify what are the critical needs for these trainings for a particular area. Say if it's Delbar retrofit, or if it's microservicing, what are the needs that the agencies need to have for that particular area? Then, what types of delivery systems will work best? Online, classroom, webinar training, lab demos, as well as composite and maybe both. And then lastly, if the agency decides, does there need to be any kind of certification with this program to make it even better, to stand behind this training for that particular agency? Furthermore, the venues of where that training needs to be done, it could be in partnership meetings like this that we're here today. It could be through the universities. It could be by the state agencies or the local agencies, facilities, or other locations, actual and virtual, that can be done just as good. So the available trainings that are out there, these are just a few. We have Federal Highway, NHI, the LTAP, the Center for Local Aid Support. There's trainings out there, and currently I am working with NHI for local aid support on training for local agencies when it comes to pavement preservation. So stay tuned. We got a group, about 8 or 10 material engineers across the country to help develop that, and hopefully in the next year that'll be readily available. We have PPRA with EMA, ISA, ERA. They have trainings that are available, not to mention some DOTs already have that information. Agencies that have AASHTO through TC3, there's trainings available for that, as well as the National Center. And the CP2 Center has a lot of great trainings for concrete and et cetera. NAPA, NCAD also has preservation trainings that are available, and IGGA, ACPA, and the National Center for Pavement Technology. In addition, we need to know which types of these trainings are needed for different audiences, what are the gaps for the trainings, and create a training library And we're in the process of trying to develop that further. But again, with so much information out there, it's just readily at your fingertips. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But there is a lot of information out there, which is good. What is next? Well, we have to set some more lofty goals for this training. And it's, in this subgroup, we said, okay, we got these trainings. Now, how are we going to evaluate these over a period of time? What are our goals? Create some training matrices, maybe for those younger generations, for that beginner, maybe that intermediate and advanced levels. That needs to be done, as well as our leadership. What does our leadership people need to know about these preservations and et cetera? And then work with our local agencies as well as our states, industries to ensure the training is valuable for them as well as for their employees' growth to make it better. Lastly, I just want to step up and say these are the people that I work with at Turner Fairbanks headquarters, and we all work a part of this PAC team. And I got a couple representatives here. Part of my PAC is I have Dennis Bachman from Illinois over sitting in the corner, and I also have Mike McGee from here in Missouri Division Office that I work with constantly. So feel free to reach out to them if they're from one of your states for further information. And with that, again, I like to end up with our questions and also our website for further information. And like I said at the start, the crowd goes wild.
All right, thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.